I call Jonathan Young.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just find it absolutely amazing how when opposition members speak in support of a government bill, how they make such good sense. So I just want to commend some of your thoughts there. And also, yes, be careful. I've been warned to be careful. That's right, you won't get any more credit from me. Sir, the Animal Welfare Amendment Bill is a very important bill, I think, for most of New Zealanders, especially, well, all of New Zealanders, but certainly, sir, those who have a kind consideration and thought towards animals. In fact, about 70% of New Zealand households have a pet. And I was just thinking about the pets that I've had throughout my life. It started off with tadpoles. I'm sure that everybody else here might have had a tadpole in a little jar in their room with a bit of oxygen weed. Then the guinea pigs, cats, calves. I had a pet pig once called Patsy. Lambs, horses and dogs, of course. Sir, all of these things I think has made me a very empathetic person. Thank you very much, Ms. Moroney. I think that there is some validity in the comment that the way we treat our animals is indicative of the sort of attitudes we have to ourselves, human beings. And it's always good to see animals treated with respect and care. And I think, sir, we are horrified in our country when we see abuse and cruelty against animals. And it comes across our TV screens far too often. And there is an outrage, an outcry when those despicable things are done. And I think it's indicative of the fact that New Zealand is, by and large, a very decent society. Sir, so it's no wonder that we are bringing through the House this piece of legislation, by and large, with support right across the House, wanting to improve the state and the being of animals. I'm sure there's going to be differences on some fine points, as different members have spoken about, but so by and large, we are together on this. One of the things I think that my colleague Barbara Kuriga, who understands animals very well, being from a dairy background, was that this bill talks about the sentience of animals, their ability to feel, perceive, to experience. And I think, sir, the more that science reveals that, the more there is an obligation upon humanity to deal with animals in a very humane way. I think also the comments made by Damon O'Connor are pertinent as well, in that, you know, we live in a world that consumes protein. And so that's the other balance of it. You know, there are some people who abhor the thought of a steak or a ham sandwich or, you know, sausages on a barbecue. But, you know, you'd say that it wouldn't be Mr. Farfoy by the looks. You know, he's a man, sir. He's a man who'd like a beautiful lamb curry, no doubt, and also a steak and a barbecue and a beef sandwich. But that's the other side of it, sir, is that we understand that that animals, whether they produce dairy products, wool, milk, or meat, they have contributed to our way of life and our economy here to the point, sir, where each year around 50% of export earnings come from animals and animal products. And so I think that's the reality. For myself, whenever I go to the supermarket, I always buy eggs that are free range. And that's because I believe in animal welfare, and also, sir, they seem to be the biggest and the nicest eggs as well. And I think there is something in that we can actually have not only a reputation around positive animal welfare, but we can also have products that are far superior because of it. And that's where I think people in the industry need to realise that actually you will not be hurt by doing the transition, but actually you will end up with products that will be far superior. They will, sir, not you. They will. So having minimal standards is an important aspect. We pride ourselves on our place in the world regarding animal welfare. There was a global charity just recently called the World Animal Protection, which ranked 50 countries across the world on their animal welfare standards. This index has placed New Zealand in first place, alongside the United Kingdom, Austria, and Switzerland. So that is good to see, but we cannot afford to be complacent just because we might be in top ranking. We must always look for improvements. One of the things that Mr. Mallard said was that this transition away from caged hens is far too long, 15 years. Well, sir, in the bill it's 10 years. Yes, there is an opportunity for somebody to apply for a one-off extension of 5 years, but the vast majority, the strong expectation is that it should be no longer than 10 years. And so I believe also over that period of time, you'd have to have a good reason why it was going to be that long. There's no reason, sir, why people cannot be proactive and moving ahead. Because, sir, it's not just legislation that controls, it's also market appetite. It's what the market wants. And we will find increasingly, not only in New Zealand, but around the world, that the market is deciding on its food products or the products of that animals produce, milk, whatever they may be, based on ethical farming. And that is the way the world is going. And so people, sir, are listening to that message. If they're interested in staying in business, they need to listen. Regarding the Animal Welfare Act, it's been 14 years since there was a review, and so this act is long overdue. It's a very important piece of legislation, and this legislation, sir, will update and strengthen animal welfare in New Zealand. This bill is the result of a comprehensive review of that Animal Welfare Act 1999, which found that while the principles of the existing legislation are sound, the time is right to update and improve how it operates. Sir, in that regard, I just want to put a shout out there for my former parliamentary colleague from Taranaki King Country, Shane Arden, who was the chair of the Primary Production Select Committee, who did a tremendous amount of work on this, and very pleased to have Barbara Kuriga now, who is the member for Taranaki King Country. And really that electorate, sir, starts in Taranaki, but it ends up nearly in South Auckland. I think it's a nation-size electorate. Yeah, that's right. And she's a townie in a dozen towns up and down our country. And somebody like Barbara has a tremendous knowledge and experience around animal welfare. And great to have her in our caucus. Sir, minimum standards, they are important. Sometimes it's a real shame that you actually have to legislate minimum standards. You'd hope that people would always, all the time, be seeking to be the best and develop and promote excellence in their industry. But minimum standards of animal care, they do change over time as scientific views lift on what animal management practices are and what is acceptable. An example of this, of course, has been what has recently captured the attention of New Zealanders through their campaigns, and that is the use of sow stalls and battery cages, both of which are being phased out. And I think that's an important point to make. So transitioning from one type of farming practice to another, we have to acknowledge that that is an expensive process. And so we have put into this bill a transitional period of time. Now, to the purists, they might be upset at that, and they might say, you know, do it tomorrow, do it at whatever expense it is, you just have to. So we also need to consider the well-being of not just our farming or our poultry industry, but we also need to understand that the way of life that has been passed on to New Zealanders has been something which we need to protect. So these transitional measures are put in place because we do expect transition, but we're not going to do it just tomorrow, although we expect the industry to be proactive in this and make every effort to do it in a very timely way. Thank you, sir.
So I call Reno Terakatni, Tanakwe.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker.